my career as a photographer was already doing fine. I never needed this. And I don't need to lie one way or the other to say how wonderful I thought he was. I could speak the truth. But I was there behind the scenes, and I am telling you that this man is authentically a really, really nice guy and a person that loves our country.
This important interview is brought to you in part by our friends at Rugged Reserves. Their Patriot flashlight is a must-have. Just think about it. When you pack your bug-out bag, you want everything from a glass-breaking hammer to a cell phone charger to a flashlight to a wire cutter and a compass. Well, you can get all of that and more with the Patriot flashlight. Light up the darkness with 500 lumens that can be seen miles away. And there's an emergency strobe with 4 unique lighting modes. And now the Patriot flashlight even has an emergency siren. And you know what the best part is? It's solar powered. So this bad boy will always have power when you need it most. It really does make the perfect Christmas gift. Get one for your bug out bag, for your car, for your home. Just visit patriotflashlight.com. I'll leave the link below this video. And while supplies last, use promo code SGT25 to save 25% off your purchase. That's patriotflashlight.com. The link is below this video. Hey friends, welcome back. I have a treat for you. This is going to be a very fun call, an interesting call, a gripping call with Gene Ho. He was President Trump's official photographer for nearly 2 years, from the earliest days of the campaign right up until Election Day. And boy, does he have some stories to tell. Gene Ho, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, it's a pleasure, man. I got to just say, before I even play your promo, because I want to set the stage with that great Vimeo promo you have on your website, your book is called Trumpography.
Correct.
It has to have been the best 2 years of your life. Am I right?
I enjoyed it the whole time. The first year was the best ever. And then the second year was great. Don't get me wrong, I love to be there. But the second year, it was nonstop. It was very stressful the second year. First year, I loved it. It was like a dream job. And then it got serious. I mean, the campaign just got really that big.
Well, let me ask you something. You're a young man. President Trump is no longer a young man, but he has the energy of a youthful young man. Where does he get those steely energy reserves?
Wait, when I first went on the campaign, it almost sounded like some kind of like lore or something. They said, oh, Trump only sleeps about 4 hours a night. And, you know, we all thought about, okay, haha, whatever. That guy has energy, and I am not joking, like energy to run circles around everybody. I mean, it is amazing the type of energy that Donald Trump has. He is nonstop. I literally never seen him like tired or yawn or anything like that. He's pretty remarkable for what he does.
Well, I want to set the stage here with this Vimeo promotion for your book, Trumpography, because I think it's very well done. Let's just take a listen to this, folks. Here it is.
My name is Gene Ho. I was Donald Trump's photographer from the earliest days of the campaign until the very last day. A journey of almost 2 years. Find out what Trump was really like behind the scenes. The stories and pictures will warm your heart and restore your trust in America and your faith in God. Read my new book, Trumpography, available now. Be inspired.
Guys, you can go get that book at trump-ography.com. And let's see, how do I turn off this screen share, Gene? There we go.
Yep, I appreciate that very much. I mean, it was just wonderful being on the campaign trail. And the thing is, Sean, I saw Trump the way no one else had seen him. And it was completely opposite of the way the mainstream media was trying to portray him.
How did you get the gig, first of all? And second of all, it must have been an absolute whirlwind and a mind boggler for you because, you know, he didn't get fair shakes at all from the mainstream media. They set him up to be the joke of the entire election, and the joke was on them.
Right. Well, here's the thing. The way it started was this, and there's a great story for everyone that's raising children or trying to raise their children up. I was at an event, and there were a lot of politicians there. Ted Cruz was there. Ben Carson was there. And Trump was there. And I've always been a fan of Trump, so I took pictures of everyone. But the difference is I took the pictures I took of Trump because I was a fan of his, and I actually emailed it to his staff and never even thought anything of it. Lo and behold, like 2 weeks later, I get a handwritten letter from Trump saying, Gene, love the photos, thank you very much. Didn't think anything of it, but then he invited me to shoot one event But here's the story that you need to tell people about. The interesting thing was never, ever be afraid to feel stupid. Because after that first event, there was another event like 2 days later. So I was invited to shoot the first event, but not the second event. So basically, I just woke up at 4 a.m., put on a suit, drove down 2-3 hours to where the event was, and I just showed up for work and like basically uninvited. And it was Corey Lewandowski. I'll never forget it. Looks at me, and I'm like, oh, geez, he's going to kick me out. Looks at me, goes, hey, come here. I was like, oh, he's going to kick me out. I felt so stupid there. And he said, Gene, we don't need you at this event, but down the road, there's another event. So if you could meet us down there, we'll see you then. And so basically, I invited myself, and I just never left. And after that second event, they started using me.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. Look, I think there's some divine intervention and divine inspiration, maybe just even what you just described there. Magic was happening with that campaign. Tell us a little bit about the real man, because I would have to believe if one was behind the scenes on the Hillary Clinton campaign, one would see warts and some very huge character flaws and anger. She seems like a very angry woman. And this president, this man seems like the polar opposite.
Yes, this is what Trump was really like behind the scenes. And I say this without any reservation of it, because my career as a photographer was already doing fine. I never needed this. And I don't need to lie one way or the other. I don't need to lie to make up things about Trump, and I don't need to make up lies to say how wonderful I thought he was. I could speak the truth. But I was there behind the scenes, and I am telling you that this man is authentically a really, really nice guy and a person that loves our country. If I could really give a quick, something I talked about in the book, I know I'm the type of person that if I walk into a room and I see someone famous, I'll like find my way and like that person in that room, I almost beeline there. Trump would walk into a room full of celebrities and he would not beeline towards a celebrity or go there to shake his hand. Trump would walk into a room, and I seen him backstage where it was like a closed room. Trump would walk backstage and he would spy out who the men in uniform were. And this was with no one else looking on. It was backstage. The press wasn't allowed back there. And he would beeline towards these service members, first responders, and he'd go there and shake their hands, and he would ignore anyone else in the room like a celebrity that people would think that he would automatically go to. He's a wonderful, wonderful man and a very nice man.
You know, we saw an example of that after the shooting, I believe, was that in Pittsburgh? I believe it was in Pennsylvania. And there's that video of the doctors and nurses
Right.
in the bowels of the hospital basement there when he comes off the elevator. And they're so excited to see him. And they say, "Thank you, Mr. President." And he goes out of his way to stop and come back and shake each and every one of their hands.
Thank you, President
Thank you,
Trump.
President.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you all very much. No, thank you, sir.
The best.
Great job.
Thank you, Mr. President. We love you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Can I shake your hand,
Thank you
sir?
so much.
Yeah.
That is the part that the press never showed in the whole campaign. Anyone who has ever met Trump personally will tell you that this guy is a class act. He's a guy that really cares. Now granted, as a boss, I've seen him both ways as a citizen, but like as a boss working for him, he's a tough guy to work for. He's very demanding, but you want that as someone that's the commander in chief. You want someone that's going to get something done, but at the same time, don't confuse it with what the man is really like. He's a tough boss, and he's a president that we would want at the helm of our country.
All right, now I want to ask you this, and this is probably more opinion from you, but it's also boots on the ground fact in terms of your own testimony or opinion. We hear time and time again from critics, even people who otherwise would be libertarian-minded, who say there's no way that Trump is really legit. He's just playing his role. He's controlled by the New World Order globalists, and he's just a puppet like Hillary. He's just playing his role. Now, you having been privy to the inside workings of the campaign, you would be able to see and recognize handlers. People like, for instance, on Hillary's side, a person like Rahm Emanuel or John Podesta or other deep state criminals. Did you see any of that? Any handlers at all on the Trump side?
I can tell you with all my heart and all my soul, the answer is no. Trump, just look at the way he is. Do you think he's the type of person basically that would be handled by somebody? Really, think about it. And if he was, why would he care? He could have just kept on doing what he was doing. He didn't need to do this at all. I seen Trump behind the scenes, and there was even more than that. There was advisors that would say, hey, I think you should do this or do that. And we're not even talking like deep state stuff. We're just talking about, hey, maybe you should be a little bit more softer when it comes to this. I mean, really think about it for a second. Did Trump listen to anyone like that? Anybody? Trump's going to do what he wants to do, and that's how it was. I was there the whole time watching him, and he's, we all know this. He's not someone that's somehow like the deep state person that goes in there. Definitely not.
I want you to describe an electric moment or two, anything that stood out as one of the most powerful moments that you observed during this. And, you know, it had to be a whirlwind. There's probably dozens of moments that come to mind, but I think what is so important about his entire election campaign, his campaign, is the fact that it only grew stronger by the day. And I remember taking my family to the international airport not far from where we live, to go see one of these rallies where Trump was going to appear. And we didn't get there late. The line was so long, we just couldn't get into the hangar. And there were thousands of people outside the hangar, while maybe 5,000 got into the hangar. It's just the electricity. This thing became a movement. So tell me about that. At what point did you realize that this thing was big?
You know what? I was there on the first days of the campaign, like maybe 3 or 4 months before he officially even signed on, I guess you could say, or declared as a candidate. There were times that I would do an event with him that it was me, his famous bodyguard, Keith Schiller, and I think Corey Lewandowski, and it was just us four going into a room. Some of the first visits that he did was he would go into a room with maybe 50 business people and talk. But then it just grew tremendously big, and it was like, before you knew it, it was lines outside everywhere. But there was a time early on, it was just him in a room. There's a picture in the book where he came into one of the events just like a normal person through the front door, just walking in, and it wasn't like it was later on. But as far as you talk about Trump and his personality, I will never forget it, because basically what I did, Sean, was besides taking pictures for the campaign, backstage Trump would meet VIPs. And it wasn't who you would think. These weren't big donors. These were people that were volunteering. They were first defenders, service people. And these were the ones backstage. But I'll never forget it, because I was doing an event, and backstage it was, we're always on a time crunch because all these pictures had to be done before he went on stage. But the funniest time was I was there, and I was taking pictures, and people were yelling at me because I'm doing too slow or whatever. My lights in the room crashed down. And Sean, I was about to just like scream at someone. I thought I was actually going to curse in front of Trump. And I just looked back and I said, "Who in the world?" I looked back, and it was Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani tripped over my lights. And I was like, "Oh, Mr. Giuliani, sorry, looks good." And Trump was just laughing, just enjoying it all.
I want you to, do you have your book handy there? Is it nearby? Yeah. While I ask you this next question, maybe you could scroll through that and pick your favorite couple of pictures to show us. Sure. But I want to ask you this.
Yeah.
You've been to, well, all the rallies, I guess. And I guess they weren't rallies at that point, but you've been to all of these meetings, in the hangars and in the arenas. And, he was filling giant spaces with tens of thousands of people in some cases, whereas Hillary couldn't fill the corner of a gymnasium.
Right.
Again, this thing became so much bigger than just the president. And, with anybody else, I think it would have been that sort of, there would have been a danger of cult of personality. But I don't feel like it ever got there with Trump because he is a common sense president who kept coming back to the common sense talking points, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the Second Amendment, our First Amendment, our borders.
Right.
Do you get the sense? Do you get the sense that that is exactly who he is and what he's all about is the Constitution and the Bill of Rights? Because I know he's not a globalist, and he uses the N-word all the time. He's a nationalist.
Yes. First of all, here's some pictures, and I didn't go to every single one. It was almost virtually impossible to go to every single one. But I want to show you something very interesting from the book. First of all, and I'll go back into that. Here is a picture from the book, and this is from the first rally. So you can see it's in like a gymnasium. This is the last rally from the very last day. So you can see in the book and from the pictures where we went from.
I can see
from the beginning to here.
Yeah, incredible. I can see all the Russians. The Russians all showed up to see him because it's the Russians that got the man elected, right?
The thing is, I believe and know 100% that Donald Trump loves Americans. He loves America, and this is his way of giving back. One of the things that he said is, and I believe it, and it's true, he didn't need to do any of these things. He went from beloved with all of America with his show and being on TV and everyone loving him to be hated by a large portion of America. And it's just unbelievable that it ended up happening that way.
All right, well, let's do this then. Let's talk about Q. I want your thoughts on Q. Where we go one, we go all. Do you believe Q is just a LARP, or do you believe that there are some element associated with Trump in some way, white hats, I guess? Do you believe that this Q thing is real and they are actually trying to disseminate important information to the people to try to get people ready for what's coming? Trump himself said in the White House, get ready for the storm. There's a storm coming. Your thoughts on Q?
Yeah. Okay. Sean, you said it all with this one phrase. You said, what do you believe in it? Here's the thing about Q, whether you believe it, I believe it, or other people believe it's a LARP, or about the people that follow Q. And we all know this, but no one's really ever said it. Q is a belief. Q is not a faith. Let me explain the difference between the two. I have a belief that on Sunday that the Dallas Cowboys are going to win. I believe they have a better team. I believe they're going to do it. It's a belief. That's my belief. Big deal. Who cares if someone else doesn't believe it? But I believe it, and that's a belief. The difference between a belief and a faith is like something where you have faith in Jesus Christ. I have faith in Jesus Christ. I hope you would. If you don't, that's fine. But why everyone is getting so bent out of shape about whether it's not you believe in Q, none of the people that believe in Q believe it as in a faith. Q is not like a faith, whereas like you believe in Jesus and you could go your whole lifetime and never see the return of Jesus. But whatever is happening with Q, I find it very interesting that a lot of the things that Q has said, sure enough, has matched up. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, scot-free. Just think about that. All these things, so it ends up being a belief. But I think people that call them a LARP end up making the Q believers making it into some sort of faith.
Well, let's talk about a couple of tangibles. I want your thoughts on Lindsey Graham. Sure. But one tangible is Guantanamo has undergone some improvements and expansion under President Trump.
Right.
I read a news item the other day that I shared in a video update that I believe more than 100 military police from the 305th, and I believe it was West Virginia, are now being deployed to Guantanamo for a 400-day deployment. Big things happening there. We suspect that some of these people, politicians, officials in the U.S. government who are guilty of sedition and treason may well have to pay for their crimes. We certainly hope that as Americans there should be rule of law, and people who have committed treason ought to pay for those crimes. Your thoughts on that, and your thoughts on Lindsey Graham having such a change of heart. I used to throw Lindsey Graham in the John McCain bucket as a traitor. He used to criticize President Trump constantly, and he's done a 180. What do you think happened there?
Well, here's the thing with I am from South Carolina, so Lindsey Graham is my senator. And I'll be honest, I haven't always been the biggest fan of Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham was a never Trumper poster boy. We all know that. It was public with that. But probably the last time I took pictures with Trump, or I can't even remember when it is, I took a picture of Trump and Lindsey Graham together. Trump after he became a president. And I will tell you, I seen them backstage. And this was before the Kavanaugh hearings. I seen Trump and Lindsey Graham interact backstage. I seen them joking. I seen them laughing. And I was one of the first ones to post it. I posted on my Facebook. I said, something's going on. Trump and Lindsey Graham, they're getting along. And it wasn't fake. I saw them backstage. I saw them joking with each other. And I posted a picture of Lindsey Graham and Trump. And lo and behold, later on, everyone started to embrace Lindsey Graham, which I like him. I'm very proud of Lindsey Graham as my United States Senator that lives in the great state of South Carolina.
Well, I mention him too because another tangible is that exchange he had with Brett Kavanaugh during the Supreme Court Justice's hearings, in which Lindsey Graham asked Kavanaugh about trying people who are guilty of treason in military tribunals or in a military court. Is that constitutional? To which Kavanaugh said, yes, in some instances it is.
American citizens who collaborate with the enemy have considered enemy combatants.
They can be. They can be. They're sometimes criminally prosecuted, sometimes treated in the military.
Well, let's talk about can be. I think
under Supreme Court precedent.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a Supreme Court decision that said that American citizens who collaborated with Nazi saboteurs were tried by the military. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I think a couple of them were executed.
Yeah.
So an interesting exchange.
My whole thing is with this Q thing, believe it or don't believe it. But here's the thing. Remember what Trump said? He goes, do you know what this represents? This represents a storm.
You guys know what this represents? Well, maybe it's the calm before the storm.
What's the storming?
Could be the calm before the storm.
And everyone said, "Oh, what do you mean by what do you mean by that?" What did Trump say? You'll see. You'll see.
The calm before the storm. You're right. I think that was the phrasing.
Right. Yeah. The calm before the storm. And he said, "You'll see."
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Who knows? Whatever's going to happen, I do see the same things that you see. I saw that interesting line of questioning that Lindsey Graham gave to Kavanaugh. I see the stuff going on in Guantanamo where it's building up. It's all going to go down. So like the people that call Q a LARP, well, could be not be. Who knows? But I tell you this much: if a person chooses to believe in the things that Q and have hope in that, it's all going to come down one way or the other. Like it's a limited time span that we're dealing with here, and I see it coming. I see it coming.
Yeah, there's no harm in following Q whatsoever, and in fact, the point I make when you go to qanon.pub and you read anything from Q, generally you're given breadcrumbs and links and names and events that, if you're an investigative journalist or a citizen reporter, causes you to dig deeper and to go and uncover things that you may have otherwise missed, crimes committed by people in high positions of power.
And Q specifically said, disinformation is necessary. So if you don't like it, just disregard it. It's disinformation. It doesn't matter. I think my big thing with it is that the people that kind of lump the people that believe in Q into some cult or it's not like that. It's like, believe it or don't believe it, doesn't matter. Or what I believe in makes no difference to what you believe in.
I made the joke there when you showed the picture. I said, there's all the Russians that got him elected. Do you think that there is a more fallow, unoriginal, ridiculous, absurd talking point in the world than the Russians got this man elected? Look at the rallies. Those were all voters. Look at her rallies. No voters.
I am going to tell you this. When I went to the rallies, and this is what I saw, and people knew it, and it was happening a long time. If you go to a rally and there was perhaps 10,000 people into a stadium, I can guarantee you, and I have pictures, and there's some pictures in here. If there was 10,000 people into the stadium, there were about 5,000 people waiting inside that never got in. Everyone knows that. The mainstream media never reported that. And there was other times where there were protesters, and it's a rally filled with people, peaceful people, and then there would be a small group of protesters, and all these protesters would maybe like 15, 20 people, and all the TV cameras surrounding these people. And it was, what the media showed was not what was going on. And there was a lot of people that supported Trump, and it is now.
Well, what I find inspiring about him and what I admire him for is taking his case to the people, and it's the case of truth, taking it directly to the people via Twitter, because he basically made this meme, this fake news meme, popular. He calls them fake news because they are, and now we hear from Q, and Q's 100% right, the fake news media, the mainstream news media, is the enemy of the people. Trump has also said that same thing. It's the case I've been making since I started doing this back in 2010 on YouTube, 2011. This is the antidote to corporate propaganda. And what is corporate propaganda? It is the corporate-owned mainstream media, like CNN, like MSNBC, like Bezos' blog, Washington Post, the New York Times. President Trump is under attack by that apparatus of the deep state and the deep state itself, like Clapper, CIA, Mueller, FBI. How in the world does this man clean house when the whole apparatus is aligned against him? I guess the best news is, Gene, is people are waking up. The American people are waking up.
The American people are waking up. And you have to remember, regardless of what it is, whether you believe in Q or not, you have to remember that Trump ran under the stable of saying, drain the swamp. He said he was going to do that. He's been cleaning up things already all over. The economy is rocking, it's doing well. And I love the feel of the country, how people are coming together. And people aren't scared anymore. Sean, I'm going to tell you that during the election, I ran into people that said, I am secretly voting for Trump, but my family can't know about it. They called it the silent majority for a reason. And basically, people were afraid to express their opinion on things. And I am telling you now that people are not scared anymore. Christians are not afraid to be Christians anymore. And that's the big change. And that's the power that Donald Trump gave to America. That is the real change of what's going on. He made us not scared anymore.
Well, it's so interesting, too, when you just step back and you think about this entire election cycle and you just use common sense. And you think, well, if you go and you run for president and you stand for patriotism and you stand for lower taxes and you stand for bringing factories back, if you stand for securing the borders, if you stand for the Second Amendment, who would that not resonate with? And on the opposite side, you have Hillary. She wants everything Macron and Merkel want. Open borders, endless immigration, take the guns, globalization, give up your sovereignty. Who would vote for that? I mean, it's just so insane that the mainstream media still tries to make the American people believe that more than half the country hate this guy. There's really nothing about those talking points he stood for to hate. I mean, it's anti-American to hate him and to like Hillary.
To this day, many times I wonder if I'm in some sort of time warp of what's going on, because I see all the things that he believes in, and I know him personally. He is not a racist, but the mainstream media paints him as a racist. He is so different from what the mainstream media paints him to. And the thing is, I get it, because I have a television set too. I see the little clips where the mainstream media just keeps poking at him until Trump has enough. And then that's what gets played on a loop on the TV screen. But I could tell you right now, there's a lot of people that believe the same way all of us believe in and want the United States to be first in what happens.
Were you present at the debates, the televised debates between he and Hillary?
No, I've been to some of the debates, but not all of them. But believe me, I watched every single one.
Well, the one that resonates with me, and I think everybody, and I think is a historic moment in television history and in political history that no one who saw it will ever forget. And it really demonstrated his courage. It's when he told her that she'd be in jail if he were president.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
Do you know how much courage that takes when she literally is one of the high-ranking lieutenants, if not generals, in the New World Order Army?
Well, here's the thing with Trump. I can tell you this much, that Trump is a person, or the type of person that doesn't back down. And he is, if there was one thing that he was supremely blessed with, is his courage. This guy, do you remember the one time when it was during a talk that Secret Service had to come up because there was a threat. You can look at his eyes. You can see how the guy is not afraid. And I think that's what we need in America right now. Someone just like that. I mean, he is blessed with two things that I know of really well: his amazing energy and his courage. His courage is off the hook. He was the one, remember, when he was like, bring the arrows to me. I will take all the arrows for you. I mean, that's what he is. He's a leader, and he's not afraid.
He's got such charisma, you know. There's another video moment of him when he was signing, I believe it was the bill he was signing. He was surrounded by families and a young boy right next to him. And I believe the bill he was signing was going to allow people with terminal illnesses to access experimental drugs, which again is common sense. It's a no-brainer. If you're terminal and you're going to die and the doctors have thrown in the towel, why not have access to things that aren't FDA approved yet? And you become one of the test mice, really, at that point, because if it helps you, it helps you. And if it doesn't, you're going to die anyway. Again, a common sense president. But there's a moment when the little boy is drawn to the president and wants to give him a hug. And I think it really is a landmark moment that shows who he is, because whereas Hillary, I believe, and her cohorts are guilty of trafficking in children and hurting children. Laura Silsby, 33, trafficked at the Haitian border, caught. Bill Clinton came to her aid. So literally, I'm saying that. I believe they harm children. Children are actually drawn to this guy.
Let me tell you a story. I was backstage at an event. Trump found out that there was this young girl that was backstage with her parents, that it was her birthday. The girl might have been not even 5 years old. Trump arranged to get a little birthday cupcake. And I was backstage. It was literally just like a handful of people. He walked up to her, gave her a cupcake, and like actually bent down and gave her a cupcake and wished her a happy birthday. And I got a picture of it. I never put it in the book, but I've shared it before. He gave this girl a cupcake, and this was backstage. I gave the picture to the campaign. The campaign never used it. The campaign never promoted it. I was like one of the only persons there that saw the interaction between Trump and this young girl. My point is, Trump never took that and used that as some sort of campaign thing to trick people into thinking that, you know, he was good with children. He's just like that. He's a good person, and people are drawn to him. His charisma is amazing, but not everything he does is done for the camera. Whereas you have other people that every single thing they do, if they kiss a baby, is done for the camera. Trump did a lot of stuff backstage that I cannot believe that the campaign really never used it, but they never thought they needed to, because everyone backstage knew, or that people that know him know what kind of a person Trump is. He's a class act.
Yeah. Well, I bet Hillary would have killed for a picture like that. But see, I don't think people are drawn to Hillary. Well, they're certainly not really, again, literally not drawn to Hillary. Look at their speaking tour. She and Bill are trying to do this 13-city speaking tour, and nobody's showing up. Again, it's just they have nothing but lies, and they have no talking points. They have nothing good to sell the American people at all on the left at this point.
I believe Trump is doing great things, and if you just bypass much of the mainstream media, people will open their eyes and see what's really going on. And that's why I feel very strongly about the book and all the things I've done. I am a first person behind the scenes, what I call a fly in the wall of working with this man. You know, I have spent times where it's almost 2 hours, 3 hours with Trump, and Trump and I almost never say a word to each other except for me saying, Mr. Trump, could you move over a little bit this way for the camera? I watched him. I mean, this wasn't me having conversations with him for 2 hours straight. I was the one behind the scenes watching him interact with people. So I know what he's like, and it's completely different from what the mainstream media portrays him to be.
Well, it had to be an honor, really, in hindsight, to be able to document the entire election, because it was historic. I mean, you could not have known that you were going to be involved in something as historic as the election, the campaign of Donald Trump, and ultimately the election of Donald Trump as president of the United States. Nobody saw it coming. Everybody thought she was going to be implanted into the White House, whether she had to steal it or not. And, again, she's quoted as having said, apparently after an NBC interview, that if that son of a bitch wins, we'll all hang from nooses. I think she's quite aware of her crimes, and she's also probably quite aware of how exposed she is now that President Trump is sitting in the Oval Office as opposed to her.
When we first started, we all believed that it could happen, and then we saw it unfold before our very eyes. I mean, the first few rallies, the first few meetings, he was speaking literally to rooms with about 150 people. There were people there that were like just clapping. They were just like, just like at first, it was, no one believed it. It was just like a sideshow, to be honest. And he was the joke person of it, but he stuck with it and had a message that resonated to the American people.
Yep. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, man, I've got a fantastic audience of supportive patriots. I've heard from authors like Donald Jeffries and James Perloff, who have also written books that after they come on, their books always shoot up in the Amazon rankings, and a very supportive audience. A lot of these guys have never sold more books than when I come on your show. So get ready to sell some books. Christmas is coming. Show us the book again and tell us where people can find it. How can they get it?
You can get it through Amazon, but this is my book. It's called Trumpography. And Sean, you gave the link to it, trump-ography.com. But I think the best thing to do is just go to my website. It's geneho.com. So it's GENEHO.com. And there you can see a link to this book. And you can also see the other things that I've done, the different celebrities I photographed over the years. I've been doing this for almost 30 years, so I'm kind of feel great just being thrown into this. But check it out, geneho.com.
All right. Oh, and before we go, you're working now with Diamond and Silk too, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about that, because they're under fire, of course, as are all conservatives and libertarians, by the fake news media and by the big social media giants who don't want the word getting out about sovereignty in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, because they too stand opposed to all of that. They stand with Hillary and against the people.
Right. I am Diamond and Silk's personal photographer, and they have a tour which they travel around the United States, and I go with them and take their pictures, and I sign books at some of their events. But Diamond and Silk are incredible, and they are just like Trump. They have courage that is unbelievable, and I want my daughters to grow up like them. But Diamond and Silk is another person where the whole system has come down on him, and they still managed to find a way to have a great career and a big voice in politics.
All right. Well, say hello to Diamond and Silk for us. A lot of my listeners and viewers, I think, are supportive of Diamond and Silk and subscribe to them and watch their stuff. And my thanks to you two for coming on. I really appreciate your time. And again, just shout out the website again. Is it geneho.com?
Yeah, geneho.com. So it's GENEHO.com. That's my name, geneho.com. You can go in there. You can see the link to the Trump things. You can see other things I've been doing and the other type of photography that I do. Check me out on Facebook. You can see my postings about Diamond and Silk. Like I said again, Diamond and Silk, just a total class act, and they're for real. I see them backstage, and they're the same thing. They're authentic and real, just like Donald Trump.
All right. Well, it was a real pleasure to meet you. Thanks for reaching out. I have to confess, I'm quite a bit envious of the fact that you got to experience that for 2 years. Because like I said, we tried to go to a rally and, we didn't get in. We had to stand outside of the airport airplane hangar. But it was quite an election. And I'm very grateful that President Trump is sitting there and is being called president as opposed to Hillary.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. You can check out Gene's website, trump-ography.com and geneho.com. And for real news 24/7, check out my website, sgtreport.com, the antidote to corporate propaganda. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thank you.
God bless.
You're going to see arrests, and then you're going to see indictments, and then you're going to see convictions. They are scared to death.